Hi guys, it's Melissa from Special Ed Law Mom. I've been wanting to do these videos for a while. I'm trying to fit in what I can. I just did a video about FERPA, just a general overview of the Family Educational Records Protection Act. If you haven't seen that, you want to make sure and check that out. I will be doing a more in-depth series on that because there's a lot to digest from there. But while we're on this subject of education records, how do you keep your records? How do you keep track of everything? I had two kids with IEPs, and at one point, we had a due process hearing and lots of exhibits and whatnot. But at one point, I had boxes, banker boxes, stacked up in my house. I probably had 6 to 8 boxes full of documents. How do you keep track of them? What do you keep? What do you do? So I have not looked at this for a long time. But years ago, I made this binder. I had one for each of my girls. Now, you need to know it's important to keep everything, but you can only pursue things back 2 years in due process. And so you may reach a point where you find that there are lots of violations and they have completely failed your child, or you need to go back and look at something. You've seen the same problem for 5 years, but there's nothing you can do about it because you can only pursue 2 years back. So my recommendation to you is to have long-term storage and short-term storage. And your binder or your file box, if you choose to use a file box, I have a file box up here, right there. Your binder or your file box, whatever you choose to use, needs to be things that are within 2 years so that you can go back and look at things. Now, that being said, if your child had the same problem for 5 years, you're going to want to show that in an IEP meeting. So you're going to need to have access to those speech records or that math goal or whatever. But the file that you can actually take with you to an IEP meeting, you're not going to walk in with a file cabinet. So let me move some of this out of the way. Like I said, I have not looked at this in years. But both of my kids have graduated, thank goodness, and we have moved on. So I would get a large binder and I would get tabs that I could write on. And with that, I would have different categories, and I will try to think about what I would have for my categories. It's going to depend, it's going to vary on your child, your school system, if you're in the same school system, if you've moved school systems. But just to give you an idea, I had a tab for IEPs. And then I would have the IEP. And some people will do everything for the year under one tab. They'll say it's the 23-24 school year, and they'll do all the documents for that year under one tab. And that's great if that works for you. But sometimes when I'm prepping for an IEP meeting, I just need to see the IEPs. And so what I did with my rotating binder that was 2 to 3 years at most is I would have 2 or 3 years of IEPs in there for that child. And so then I could go back and go, okay, this was from 2 years ago. This is from last year. Let's look at the speech goals. Let's see what's going on. I also had a tab that was work samples, and I would do that by year for 2 or 3 years. So I could show, look, this is how her reading was in 3rd grade, and this is how it is in 6th grade, or not her reading. This is how her writing was, and it's not, I don't really see a difference. What's happening with OT? Let's see what else I had. I had test graphs. So I am notorious for preparing for IEP meetings, and there's nothing like quieting a room when everyone wants to tell you that things are wonderful and there's no problems with walking in with a graph. And if I can find the program that I would use, I will make a video about that. But I would walk in with graphs that would show the different, for example, this is Weschler subscores by year and how she did. And so I'd say, look, we were here, but now we're here, or now we're down here. Can you talk to me about that? Because I'm not really understanding, if we're doing so wonderfully, why we're having so many challenges. So one year we're here, and then the next year we're down here. Or we were here and we went here, but now we're lower. There's a lot that I could say about it, but I would walk in. I would spend there were times I spent an entire day preparing, and I would color code them. And see, this was like 2012, September. So it was like September, October, November. How come the scores are going down? They're not going up if she's doing so well. I also had report cards and progress reports. And again, I would do the report cards for that year together. And then I would do the progress reports for that year. And then I would have the next year, because remember, I've got 2 to 3 years going. Evaluation summaries when they would give me things in IEP meetings. I would have test results, and I'd have the raw data sheets and the protocols and whatnot that I could refer back to. Okay. Um, and I would walk into a meeting with all of this. So these are different tests that were done. I had classroom observation sheets for behavior and what was done with that. And again, by year, I had a neuropsych evaluation that we paid privately for. I had our private speech evals. And sometimes on the neuropsych, I might have testing that's over several years. I would have that all in here. I would have private speech eval and how they did the report on that. I would have private OT, auditory testing, um, different rating forms that maybe I was asked to fill out. I'd have letters from the doctors that would diagnose them or give their different diagnosis or talk about their different struggles. So I could walk into an IEP meeting with an essential file cabinet of things I could pursue for the past 2 to 3 years. I would walk in, I would set this down on a table, and I would set my special ed law book down on a table, and I'd say, I'm ready to go. And if someone, and of course, if I knew ahead, which you should have a draft ahead, and I have a video on that, there's nothing in IDEA that requires them to give you a draft ahead, but they are required to give you meaningful participation. And so they should be providing that, because no one can digest all of this stuff. We don't do this every day, right? We're mom and dad. We have 45 other responsibilities. And so they should give you the information ahead of what they're going to talk about. You should be going through that ahead. And then, for example, if you have a concern with speech, you don't want to be fumbling through this binder in that meeting. You will have prepared ahead. You will have the IEPs either highlighted or a cheat sheet that you've made that will say, in 2012, the goal said this, and in 2013, it said this, and in 2014, it said this, and all of those seem the same. And if they say, oh, we don't think so, well, would you like me to pull the IEPs from my binder? Because I have them right here. I can show you. So there's a lot of cheat sheets that are made, because you don't want to be doing that back leg work and that homework when you're sitting in that meeting, but you want to let them know, I've got it right here. And so that's just one of the ways that I go into a meeting prepared. This is the same type of thing that I would do for a family that I'm advocating for. I might not have all of this, but I'm going to want to see a lot of this. Because if you've gotten to the point that you're hiring me as your advocate, then obviously you've got concerns. Maybe there's been some shenanigans going on, and we need to rein that in. And so I would want to see this. I don't need to see your child's whole history, but I want to see this kind of stuff so that I can prepare for that meeting. And when I'm on Zoom, I can say, look, I've got it right here, or I've got a digital copy of it. Would you like me to send it to you? Because I think we've got a concern and we've got a repeat goal, or perhaps we didn't make progress like you thought that we did, and we need to discuss that. Like I said, graphs and charts and doing your homework ahead can really make a difference in a meeting. So I was going to tell you a story, and then I'll be done. And I've probably told this in another video, but There was a need that one of my children had for social. They were struggling socially. And I don't remember all the specifics, but I'll just throw some information out there. So let's just say the school was offering 20 minutes a week of social to this kid. 20 minutes a week. And everyone in the room agrees this is the child's biggest struggle is social. And because it's their biggest struggle, it's affecting their mental health. So now we've got a secondary problem because we've got social problems and we're not feeling accepted and we don't know how to interact with peers. And now it's affecting our mental health. So we've got two issues going on. And so I quietly say, we had an attorney with us at this meeting. It was crazy. And I quietly, calmly say, my understanding is we all agree that social is the biggest problem, blah, blah, blah. Yes. Are we all in agreement? Yes. Okay. And that is now impacting mental health. We're engaged in suicidal ideation. We're engaged in self-harm. Are we all recognizing that these are overlapping? Yes. And we all agree that this child is at school from, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. every day. Let's see, that's what, 7 hours times 5? Maybe a short day here or there. So let's say 32 hours a week. hmm Right, you're right. Okay, so 32 hours a week, and we're giving this kid 20 minutes a week of social help for their greatest need. That's like 1% of the time that they're at school. And this is affecting their mental health to the point that they're hurting themselves. Does that sound like FAPE to you? And there was silence in the room. I proved my point. And our attorney, I hadn't even told her that I had prepared that. And she turned to me and she said, wow. Because what can you say? You've all just agreed with me. And yet, we're doing 20 minutes out of 32 hours a week. I think maybe we need to bump that up a little bit. So data is super important. Having the records is super important. And you want to make sure you have them organized and you've gone through them before the meeting because those meetings are your child's future. And you want to make sure that you've got it all organized and ready to go. So I hope that that's helpful. I hope to do some videos about preparing for IEP meetings. I will be doing more in-depth videos about the different parts of FERPA because it's a lot to do in one video. But if you want a general overview of FERPA, be sure and check that video out. Be sure and check out my new website, specialedlawmom.com. I'm excited on there. I offer advocacy services, which are full, you pay me an hourly rate. I step in, I advocate for you. And there's a retainer involved. I also offer phone consultations where if you don't have the budget or you want to just try out my services, you can do that. I can do record reviews where I simply go through the records and give you my suggestions in a written report. I'm going to have PDF resources for you and even a membership program. And then, of course, I've got this YouTube channel with over 50 videos of free content for you to utilize and hopefully help you. So, and I'm hopeful I will get all of those videos in a blog format on my website with links and whatnot to the other videos I mention and whatnot. So it's a work in progress, but I hope that you'll check it out. I hope that you'll let me help you. Again, there's a resource for any type of budget. And until next time, make it a great day. Thanks. Bye.